Thank you this day that you have blessed us with. Lord, we just thank you for all your blessing in this time of Thanksgiving. Lord, that you just be with us and guide us, Lord, and be with us as we travel home this evening. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Johnny Kidwell.
Here.
Sasha Black Fox Qualls.
Here.
Danny Callison.
Here.
Julia Coates.
Here.
Joe Deere. Mike Dobbins. Kevin Easley.
Here.
Lisa Hall. Daryl Legg.
Here.
Dora Petzkowski.
Here.
Cody Poindexter. Joshua Sam.
Here.
Melvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith.
Here.
Condessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Okay, if everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes, could I have a motion, please? Have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, first up on our reports is from the Marshal Service, Shannon Buell. And we have Mr. Roach. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Good afternoon. Shannon couldn't be here today. He's somewhere in Tulsa. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but he told me last week that I need to be here to report to him. So I have a good idea of what's in this report, which is probably that you guys have, and I can answer whatever questions that I might be able to relate to with the Marshal Service, and a few limited questions that I could relate to with Department of Public Safety, Phillips' side, and Department of Justice, which is Suzanne Drywater's side. Do you guys have any questions on the report?
Any questions for Mr. Roach? Cody?
Yeah, do y'all do wellness checks on home visits, I guess? Like if somebody had somebody, or like an anonymous wellness check, if somebody wanted to do that?
In certain circumstances, yes, is the answer to that. I'm trying to think of something similar. Do you have anything in specific that you were thinking about?
Yeah, I do have one, but I think I can go through a different health department to do that because it's kind of pretty specific in that regard. But I had one where some employees worked for the nation and they seen something that wasn't too good, so they did like a wellness check with the marshals. And I guess the marshals told the people at the home visit that so-and-so sent them out here, and it was supposed to be anonymous. I don't know how the process works, so I was just, and there's some drama with it. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, you kind of get off in the weeds in the gray area when you do
Yeah.
things outside of law enforcement.
Right.
Now, wellness checks, I mean, if that's like mental health type checks,
Yeah.
is not necessarily our purview, right?
Right.
It's more along the lines of no one's heard from Aunt Susie, and it's been
Right.
3 or 4 days, the kids live out of state. Can
Okay.
somebody go up and check
I got you.
and see if she's there? Some of the other stuff, it gets really in the gray area pretty quick to why are
Okay.
we in a person's home
I got you
without
now.
probable cause.
Okay, thank you.
And I think there's a difference between wellness and welfare. Welfare check is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yep. Now, who's Daryl?
Yes, sir. On this report, adult probation services, it says total active cases 521. Is that how many that we have in our court system reporting to parole officers or probation officers?
I believe that's accurate, Daryl.
And how many probation officers do we have?
It looks like, I was looking through that, probably the answer to that is not enough if I was speaking for them.
That's,
They have a huge caseload, I'm
Uh-huh.
told, on that side of the house that they're keeping up with. They've got a new one that's in Cleat right now being trained.
Yeah.
And she should be getting fairly along the way to coming out and helping. Yeah, that side of the house is growing.
Okay.
By leaps and bounds. If I'm going to guess, I'm going to say there's at least 4 probation officers over there that handle that, and they have some administrative staff. But again, that's Suzanne Drywater's
Yep.
side of the house. I could get her to reach out to you if that's helpful.
Yeah, I just want council to be aware because there may be a day that we ask for more, there's going to be a day that we're going to ask for more probation officers, and this is justification. That's a whole lot of case management for very few to do it effectively. So just to help y'all's department, this is 521 is an awful lot.
Yes, sir, I agree with you. It shows on here a little further up, they'd hired 2 tribal police officers for adult justice services and 1 tribal officer and 1 probation officer attending CLEAT.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've plussed up a little bit. I was talking to the director, Tyler Trammell, earlier today on the phone, and they're full as far as they have all their job positions filled in it as it is right now, but it may be something that needs to be looked at
Right.
with the amount
We,
of work that they're doing.
Follow up with that. And so do you know where all the probation officers are located? Or is that something that they could answer later on, maybe?
Let's see, location-wise, they just moved out to that old bank across from Keys
South, so-
Elementary. No, out here in Park Hill.
Okay.
So they've got a new office that they've just stood up out there in Park Hill, and most of them are located there. So there are some satellite offices that they're looking at, and they may staff from time to time, like up in the prior office.
Gotcha.
There may be someone up there. There's an office up there at least. I don't know what their scheduling is for
Okay.
that. And Juvenile Services does the same thing, juvenile probation and parole. Also, I think they have a total of 6 or 7 over there that deal with the juveniles. That is always growing
Yeah.
issue with them too. And same thing, they go to court, they travel to court to the J area. They do go out and do compliance checks all in the 14 counties. And they have an office up there prior, and sometimes they're in that when they have been. And then they have court throughout the week as on top of all their casework.
Hey, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next up, from the Office of the Attorney General, Chad Harshaw.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the council.
Chad.
Happy to be here. I know it's been just a couple of weeks since I was here providing our last report, and do have a couple of updates I want to share on some of the litigation. I've mentioned in the past the Stitt v. Treat case, which is a case that is generated by the Oklahoma legislature versus the governor with respect to the compact veto overrides that happened at the last special legislative session. We're not a party to that case, but we have submitted some amicus briefing outlining our position as to the compacts being, the veto override and the compact extensions being valid. The development we've had since we last met was that this matter is set for hearing on December 7th. We're not going to, again, not be a party to that hearing, but we do look forward to monitoring that situation and weighing in where appropriate as to our interest in that case. One other development we've had is this ongoing litigation that we have with respect to certain tribal gaming compacts that were approved back in 2019, 2020 timeframe, whenever we were having our compact dispute with the governor's office in the state of Oklahoma. There were a series of compacts, 4 in total, that were approved that deviated from what the model compact required, and along with some other things, offering land outside of tribal reservation boundaries for a particular group of tribes that were executed by the governor. The Oklahoma Supreme Court struck them down as invalid. They did not follow the process, the rules, and as you know, the model gaming compact auto-renewed for another period of 20 years. So there's a lot of background and legal issues that have been resolved through litigation on those cases. We're still engaged in litigation in D.C. on against the governor and the Department of Interior for approving those unlawful compacts. And you may have observed in the news that the Oklahoma Joint Committee on State Tribal Relations met to take up 2 of these compacts for approval that the governor's office submitted. They were denied to be approved by the committee as we expected, because they are a violation of the law as according to our own court. And so with respect to those 2 compacts, I think that issue is resolved, although we do continue to monitor the issues and also engage in the litigation that we're a party to in the D.C. Circuit. And we're somewhat in a holding pattern right now as some of the briefing gets resolved, where we've had the Attorney General for the state of Oklahoma jump into that litigation as a representative of the state, which is a departure from the previous posture where the governor was prosecuting those cases. Other than that, we do have a number of other cases that we're monitoring, but nothing significant to update on since we talked just a couple of weeks ago. One other thing I did want to share is you'll see 2 items on the agenda this month and also more items to come in the coming months with respect to modernizing and revising provisions of our code. Over the past 4 years, especially since McGirt, we've done a wholesale change to our criminal code to reflect the changing of circumstances and the criminal justice matters within our reservation boundaries. And we're going to take a look back at some of those changes that we've made. I know I've talked to some council members about issues and concerns or thoughts that they have. And then we also have other areas of our civil code, civil jurisdiction, municipal code, other things that are ready to be, for us to take another look at and review. And so part of what I've tasked my staff with is to start putting together these code revisions that we can send through, maybe not all at once, but in intervals over hopefully the next year. And we see two items on the agenda this month and hopefully more to come. And with that, that's the report that I have. And if there's any questions, I'd love to take.
Does anybody have any questions for General Harshaw? Julia?
Hi. I've received an inquiry from a constituent about the Snyder Act of 2023. Can you give me any information about that?
Snyder Act of 2023. Off the top of my head, I don't think I have anything I can share to this body, but I can certainly take a look.
I'm Googling things, and it's giving me the Indian Citizenship Act of 1921, but then there is some apparent, it looks like it's through expenditures and appropriations by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and I have, okay.
If I may, I can take that back and take a look at it
All right.
and reach out to you separately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, sir. All right, next from FOIA and GRA, Gwen Turpin.
Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you today. You have a copy of my report that's been updated since week before last, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Does anybody have any questions for Gwen? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
From the Tax Commission, I didn't see Sharon. Here comes Tara Lee.
I'd be happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Tara Lee for Sharon? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Gaming Commission, Janice Purcell.
Does anyone have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Janice? All right, Janice, thank you. And last, from Human Resources, Samantha Hendricks.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Samantha.
Beautiful, beautiful day outside. So just a highlight on the report, we've seen a 9% increase as far as our employees from this time last year. So we're continuing to really hire. We had a record number again. I like to always highlight those. We have 38 in orientation today, or yesterday, Monday, and so we're pretty excited about that piece of it because we're continuing to grow. We have open interviews scheduled for tomorrow in Tahlequah, so we'll start that at noon to 2 to help with the application process with some of our program participants, and then also continue on with the interview fair or interview event that happens between 2 and 4. So I know there was a question earlier in reference to program participants in the application process. We are definitely updating our application to capture that information so we can identify who those people are. And not only that piece, be able to apply that preference that we were talking about. Of course, we're updating some of our processes, the website, our education to the hiring managers so that they know what changes have happened. And so that's a brief overview and quick update. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, anybody have any questions for Samantha? Daryl?
If we have a good participant, let's say that works at the health center, and she's been on work experience for a long time, and they're wanting to hire her, would that be considered in-house only, maybe?
They would have to apply. Of course, they would know the qualifications.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
And there
okay.
would be, right.
Good, okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Samantha.
Okay, thank you.
Old business, none pending. Nope. Yep. For discussion only. Johnny?
Read that whole thing.
Yeah, if you will.
This is for discussion only, an act implementing the court on the judiciary as mandated in Article 8, Section 5 of the Constitution of the Cherokee Nation. And, Mr., if you don't mind me kick it off. I'd received a couple of phone calls in the past couple of weeks about this and spoke to a few people here presently today, and I really appreciate everyone reaching out. Just to make the reason why we did this known, if it wasn't, clear before, the reason why I wanted to put this on for discussion only is not because I've got an agenda and because I'm trying to drive a train toward making something happen. That's not it at all. The only thing that I wanted to do was bring this to everybody's awareness and visibility that we are constitutionally required to have this piece of legislation, and we haven't had it for 20-something years. And us putting it on the agenda for discussion only shows not only us, we can't do this alone, but all the other stakeholders that are involved, that we think it's important and that we should slowly start working on this thing. I don't know that it requires a big working group to do that. I don't know that, I don't think that maybe we identify one or two people to work with the other stakeholders. I don't need to be on that. I don't want to control this bus. I don't want to be the driver. That's not the way it was originally for me. The only reason I wanted to put on there was so that we all can read this thing and know that we're required to have it, and know that we all should be collectively seeing what's coming down the pike, and that we think it's important, and that we can, as Cherokee Nation, entirety, work toward some kind of putting this thing. I mean, it's pretty much written. We just got to get through different stakeholders and make sure it's what we want. Talked to Chief recently over in the administration. They think it's a great idea that we move forward with this. I've talked to Attorney General Harshaw. He thinks it's a great idea that we all move forward with this. Everyone that we've talked to thinks it's a good idea. So really for discussion only. And and I don't know, I'll defer to Attorney Young or our resident Robert's Rules of the Road professional, Dr. Julia Coates. But if maybe we make a motion to put, I would recommend somebody like Kevin Easley, our resident lawyer, as kind of the POC for this, to work with the other stakeholders and then brief us how things are going each month to make this simple. It does not need to be a huge boulder that we roll up a hill. Everyone agrees that we're moving forward on the right path. It might take a little bit to get there, but at least we're working on it. Right? It's a piece of legislation that I think is low-hanging fruit for us, and that was my only intent, and I hope everybody understands that I've got no other ulterior motives, Mr. Speaker.
Anybody else have anything to say? Julia?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've all had the document in front of us, and when I look at it, I can see a couple of little tweaks and things, and on the call that we were on last week and everything, it seems like that's what others are maybe seeing as well. So I guess my question might be to Mr. Young and General Harshaw in terms of how long do you think it might be before we could have a document in front of us to move forward to a vote? Are we talking a couple of months? Are we talking 6 months, a year? I mean, it does seem like we've got a pretty good baseline here to start from.
My suggestion would be to table it for a time certain, maybe bring it up somehow after the holidays, maybe January, February. That'll give us some time. I'm sorry?
Not on mine.
No. I don't have
You're
mine
good.
available.
You want to use mine?
No. Basically what he said, we might table this to be looked at till after the holidays, probably in January.
So-
That'll give them time also to look at it. AG's office, our attorney, and maybe we could expedite that by giving them that time frame to look at it.
Okay. Would it be appropriate then to make a motion to place this on as an active new business item on the January? Would that give you two and whoever, Councilor Easley, if you're going to be, would that be a reasonable thing at this point?
If
Is that a doable time frame, or?
If at this time, we're going to look at something for the January agenda, we can discuss that with them. We don't have to make a motion to put it on the, I mean, whatever we're trying to do.
The thing I'm trying to do, Speaker, is that we do have an item under old business, and so how do we dispose of that item? And one way to do it would be to move it to a for action item. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. Because otherwise, the alternative is to basically kill it. And so I'm trying to keep it alive and move it to an action item rather than a discussion only. Yeah.
Well, that's fine, and,
So
but.
I'm just, January, February.
But and as far as this meeting today, this is for discussion. We can discuss that to get it on the agenda. We will get it on the agenda.
Yeah, but that's not how it works under Roberts.
Well, you can say whatever you want to say, Councilman. I'm telling you, you can say spin it however you want. It will be on the agenda, I am telling you, at some point in time when we talk in the short term with Councilman Harshaw and our Attorney Young. And that's something that, I'm not going to jam this down their throats and tell them it's going to be January. We will have discussion. I want input from our Attorney General. I want input from our attorney, and if that January date is good, then I will make sure it gets on the agenda.
And
if they need another month, then we can do that. That's, I do an agenda for Rules meeting every month. I do this every month. It's what I do. It's my job to conduct business. And I'm just telling you, I will make sure it's on the agenda, Councilman.
Speaker, I'm sorry if this came across that I was trying to jam something. I thought I was asking a question of each of them of what would be a reasonable time frame. And so if it's not January, then that's fine. I'm not trying to say anything here. I'm not trying to impose anything. I'm just trying to move this from a discussion item to an action item in the appropriate way in a time frame that would be reasonable. That's all I'm trying to do here. Okay?
Noted.
I'm done.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilman Easley?
Thank you, Speaker. I'm not trying to volunteer myself here, but this feels like a presidential debate. My name's been mentioned twice, so I guess I should speak up. Both Councilor Kidwell and Coates mentioned my name as somebody to work with John on this. I'm happy to do that, and I have voiced my opinion to 7 or 8 of you on what I think the changes need to be in this legislation. And so I'm happy to head that up if that's what the council wants me to do. I'm happy to just be a point of contact where any of you can say, hey, Kevin, tell John this, or what about this issue, if you want to facilitate that through me, and I'll keep checking up with John and the AG on this and see where we can get. So, but if that's what you all want me to do, I'm more than happy to serve my role in that capacity.
Anybody else? Councilman Callison?
Like I mentioned the other day on the deal, the only thing this does is gives us checks and balances. If something arises in the Constitution, it's already put in there of how it's going to be handled, where it doesn't have to be handled a different way than what it was. So that was a big thing with me signing on as a sponsor, is just to try to get it to where we've got something in place for when, if it ever does, we probably never will, and we hope it never does, but if it does, we are prepared as a legislators, we're prepared to take this on, and there's already places, in fact, to take care of it.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Item number 1 under new business. Victoria, would you take that, please?
An act amending Title 18 of the Cherokee Nation Code annotated. Move for its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, Dora, would you take that, please?
An act amending Title 67 of the Cherokee Nation Code annotated, and I put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Are there any announcements? All right, the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, December 11th at 11 a.m. Need one more motion?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor to adjourn? All opposed? We're adjourned.